I think my best friend sitting here would attest to it. He was so mad with me because I was involved with this older guy. And I just found myself in a quagmire, as we do sometimes. But Mr. Look So Good turned out to not look so good. Okay. As I fast forward this story, I had my first child by the time I was 14. My son was born May 25th, 1966, and I turned 15 years old on June 2nd, 1966. I didn't feel comfortable living in my parents' home. My parents never put me out of their home, by the way. They were disappointed, of course, because I had been a straight A student before Mr. Look So Good. Disappointed, but supportive. What I didn't tell them, or have the courage to tell them, that I was still running around with Mr. Look So Good. And guess what? Found myself very pregnant again. So I'm standing in front of my dad, God rest his soul, afraid to tell him that I'm pregnant again. So I conjured up this idea that I should move in with Mr. Look So Good. So I said to my dad, "You just don't understand. He loves me." My dad put his hand up here and said, "Lord, I don't know who this fool is standing in front of me, but I know the child I raised is in there somewhere. And she's gonna come out one day. Well, here I am." Okay? But back then, 90% of the people in my hometown told me I'd never amount to anything. I was the talk of the town because I ran around with this guy. Well, Dad stepped back, let me walk out of the house and move in with Mr. Look So Good. I did, and that's when a difficult transformation happened. I suffered much physical abuse, much emotional abuse, to the point that when my son was, I think, 9 months old, and I was 7 months pregnant with our daughter, we got into a violent fight, and I got thrown down 3 steps, locked out of our home. All of a sudden, Mr. Look So Good did not look so good. When my face hit the ground, I called on the Lord, because I was brought up knowing the Lord. But at 13 and 14, I thought I knew everything. But when my face hit that ground and I couldn't get back in the house, all I could think of was to call on the Lord. And as I picked my battered, bruised, bloody body up and walked 1.5 miles down the road to the payphone to call my father, he said, "Stay there. We've been waiting for this call." And he picked me up, took me to the hospital. Once the doctor said that I was gonna be okay, and I came out with sort of a fractured wrist, splint in my nose, I was like, "Lord, how did I get back? How do I wander? How do I navigate this very interrupted life?" Because you see, now I'm responsible for 2 human beings. My dad never said a word all the way to the hospital. But on the way home, which was about, from the Lewis Hospital, probably about 30 miles to our family home, he didn't say anything. But halfway there, he started. And because we're kind of in a church environment, I'm going to spare you some of the things he said, okay? But use your imagination. I do remember him saying very clearly, and I tell this story all over the world, number 1, the child you are carrying and the one you have do not belong to your mother or me. Number 2, you will have to get a job It's spelled J-O-B, and I don't mean Job in the Bible, but you fit to suffer like Job. And number 3, you have to figure out a way to finish your education, because education is key. You will not go on welfare because that system will trap you. I would have done anything to get back home at that point. And so I agreed to those terms, and my parents let me move back home. My daughter was born April 19th, 1967. On June 2nd, 1967, I turned 16 years old. My dad didn't wait for me to find a job. He walked in the door and said, I got a job for you. He was an 18-wheeler driver. He drove dressed chickens all over the world. He got me a job in the poultry processing plant. And since we've had chicken for lunch, I'll spare you the gory details of what they do to chickens. Because believe me, I didn't eat chicken for a long, long time. So I worked in that processing plant trying to figure out how I was going to turn my life around. Because see, I had 2 innocent human beings. And we have to think of our children as innocent human beings who had no say in coming here. And when Job Corps became my stepping stone to everything that I am now. I heard the word mentoring meant. I met a mentor in Job Corps who believed in me, Ruth Norman, who said, I picture you being the dean of women at a major university one day. Wow. I thought the woman was crazy because I had almost bought into some of that negative connotation that some people in my hometown had about me. But I tell you, I had wonderful parents who were married for 60 years. I had grandparents who still believed in me, and I had mentors along the way. And of course, my son and daughter, these 2 innocent human beings, I felt a significant responsibility to because they did not come here, regardless of whether their father did or did not provide for them. And he never did. He never did. He ended up going to jail after killing 2 people. He ended up abusing a woman when he got out of jail one time. That could have been me. Do you see why I give all the honor and the glory to our Lord and Savior today? So, these lessons have taught me about responsibility and accountability. I don't know a child that jumped in an egg or sperm and said, bring me here. And in as much as they don't, we have to take care of them. It taught me about faithfulness in God and believing, and also seeking divine counsel because I was brought up in the church and because I had that grounding. You know, Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. So when you train up a child, guess what? They might go left or right for a while, but if you keep on that prayer, stay on your knees, they can turn around. So seeking divine counsel, praying, studying the word, fasting, and sharing testimony. And I also learned that substance over appearance is very important. All that looks good for you is not good for you. So what am I doing now? I've taken all of this pain and turned it into the purpose of serving other people by sowing seeds of faith. And our goal is to plant faith seeds around the world globally. And our mission is to motivate, inspire, and empower people from all walks of life utilizing biblical principles. I formed the Real Life Cost Model. It's a skill-building approach to teen pregnancy. I created this model as a doctoral student while I was at Florida State University. And now we're revitalizing that. I completed my bachelor's degree, my master's degree in social work. So to all the social workers in the house, yay! And my PhD is in social work as well from the Florida State University. I've coined my memoir, which will be coming out in the summer of 2025, from GED to PhD on mustard seed faith, how I overcame life interruptions through divine intervention. Just very quickly, let me tell you what GED means and PhD means. If you can, you'll see this when you open the book. It's on a bridge, GED vertically, a bridge, and then PhD connected to the bridge. GED means God's eternal devotion. On the bridge I have keeps me, and then PhD means praising him daily. And finally, I'm teaching in the reentry program at our Sheriff's Detention Center, motivating and inspiring young women who are in the reentry program. I also am an adjunct professor at Florida State University and Tallahassee Christian Training Center. So, in conclusion, I learned that we journey through life's unpredictable terrains. We often encounter voices that echo doubt and skepticism, casting shadows on our path. Yet within the heart of these interruptions lies a profound truth waiting to be embraced. The realization that the negative opinion of others are mere whispers in the wind, not dictators of your destiny. This chapter invites us to transcend these external judgments, urging us to anchor our worth and aspirations not in the fleeting perceptions of others, but in the steadfast belief in our own potential. This brief story illuminates the transformative power of viewing interruptions not as barriers, but as doorways to growth and self-discovery, reminding us that the only reality worth embracing is the one we choose to create for ourselves. I have come to this greater realization through my journey of faith that despite life's interruptions, God always provides. Simply put, I was raised never to give up, especially never give up on God. I was taught to turn negatives into positives. As a result, I found joy and peace in our Savior, which allowed life's interruptions to become my testimonial, truth. And now I pay it forward through sowing seeds of faith, the real life cost model, my memoir, and teaching at the Sheriff's Detention Center. I am a true servant who helps others build their faith quotient while turning their pain into purpose. And to God be the glory. Yeah!